The rain-slicked streets of Brooklyn gleamed under the sodium glow of streetlights, reflecting the chaos of my life in their fractured puddles. I gripped the steering wheel of my battered sedan, the wipers thumping a frantic rhythm against the storm. It was 11:47 p.m., and I was bone-tired from a 14-hour day in my Manhattan federal courthouse chambers, where I'd just sentenced a corporate fraudster to a decade behind bars. Judge Evelyn Harper, they called me. The guillotine. A name earned through rulings that sliced through lies with surgical precision. But tonight, as I navigated the familiar turn onto my street, the weight of that name felt heavier than ever. I didn't see the black SUV until it was too late. It roared out of an alley, headlights off, and slammed into my driver's side with a bone-rattling crunch. My car spun, tires screeching, the world a blur of wet asphalt and shattered glass. Instinct kicked in. Years of surviving my family's betrayal had honed my reflexes. I slammed my foot on the brake, wrenching the wheel to avoid a streetlight. The SUV didn't stop. It reversed, engine snarling, and came at me again. This time I heard the unmistakable crack of gunfire. Bullets pinged off the hood, one grazing the windshield, spiderwebbing the glass inches from my face. "Stay away from the wedding," a voice hissed through the chaos, low and distorted as if through a burner phone left on my dashboard. My heart pounded, but I didn't freeze. I couldn't afford to. I floored the gas, my car lurching forward, scraping against a parked van as I swerved into a narrow side street. The SUV hesitated, then peeled away, swallowed by the storm. I pulled over, hands shaking, breath ragged. A piece of paper fluttered on my windshield, held by a single wiper blade. I stepped out into the rain, my heels sinking into a puddle, and snatched it. Scrawled in jagged black ink, "Stay away from the wedding." The wedding. My brother Liam's wedding. The blood-red envelope that had arrived at my chambers that morning flashed in my mind, its Harper Enterprises crest glinting like a warning. Inside, an invitation to Liam's marriage to Sophia Bennett, a corporate lawyer whose name I'd seen in legal journals. Tucked within was a note from my mother, Claire, her elegant script trembling. "Come back. Save us." Save them? From what? The family that had disowned me 9 years ago, when I was 25, after I blew the whistle on my father's insider trading at Harper Enterprises? The family that had branded me a traitor, a failure, I climbed back into my car, the note crumpled in my fist. The memory of that night at the Waldorf Astoria Gala clawed its way up, unbidden. My father, Victor Harper, Wall Street's untouchable titan, his face purple with rage as he towered over me in his tuxedo. "You're a traitor to this family," he'd roared, his voice echoing off the chandeliers as guests gaped. I'd stood my ground, 25 and trembling, my evidence of his firm's illegal trades already in the SEC. "I did what was right," I'd said, my voice barely steady. He'd laughed, a cruel, cutting sound. "Right? You've destroyed us. You're no daughter of mine." Liam, my golden boy brother, had stood behind him, 27 and already a rising star at Harper Enterprises, his silence louder than any insult. My mother had wept, but she hadn't stopped him. No one had. 9 years of silence followed. 9 years of building my life from the ashes. Law school on scholarships, clerkships in crumbling courthouses, nights eating ramen in a shoebox apartment while Liam jetted to Davos and my father's empire grew. I'd become a federal judge at 32, the youngest in my district. My rulings on antitrust and civil rights earning me a reputation as a force of nature, but the Harper name still haunted me, a ghost I couldn't outrun. And now this... gunshots, a cryptic note from my mother, and a wedding I was apparently supposed to avoid at all costs. I drove the last block to my apartment, scanning the shadows for another SUV. My building was a modest brownstone, a far cry from the Harper penthouse on Fifth Avenue where I'd grown up. I parked, my pulse still racing, and checked my phone. A text from Jamal Carter, my clerk and closest ally, waited. "You okay?" Heard about a shooting near your place. Jamal, a former hacker who'd traded cybercrime for a law degree, had a knack for knowing things before anyone else. I typed back. I'm fine. Meet me at the courthouse, 7 a.m. We've got a problem. Inside my apartment, I locked the door, slid the deadbolt, and checked the windows. The envelope sat on my kitchen counter where I'd left it, its red paper glowing like a wound under the fluorescent light. I poured a glass of bourbon, my grandfather's brand, the only piece of my past I still allowed myself, and tore the envelope open again. The invitation was standard, engraved in gold. Liam Victor Harper and Sophia Elizabeth Bennett request the honor of your presence, Hudson Valley, the Harper estate this weekend. But it was my mother's note that kept me up at night. Save us. From what? Victor's wrath? Liam's ambition? Or something darker? I turned the envelope over, and something small fell out. A USB drive, black and unmarked, hidden in the lining. My breath caught. I plugged it into my laptop, half expecting a virus. Instead, a single audio file loaded. My grandfather's voice, Thomas Harper, raspy from years of cigars, filled the room. Evelyn, he said, if you're hearing this, I'm gone. Victor's empire is built on blood, money laundering, cartels, lives destroyed. I tried to stop him, and it cost me everything. You're the only one who can finish what I started. Be careful. They'll kill to keep their secrets. The recording cut off, leaving silence thicker than the rain outside. My grandfather, the only Harper who'd ever believed in me, had died 6 years ago, officially of a heart attack, but his words, it cost me everything. Twisted in my gut. Had he been murdered? And what did he mean by blood? I replayed the file, his voice steady but urgent, a lawyer who'd walked away from Harper Enterprises to fight for justice. He'd taught me to question everything, to see through the gloss of wealth to the rot beneath. Now, it seemed, he'd left me a mission I hadn't asked for. The bourbon burned my throat as I paced. The ambush tonight wasn't random. Someone, Victor, Liam, or their shadowy allies, knew I'd gotten the invitation, knew I might come. The note on my windshield wasn't a warning. It was a declaration of war. But why now? Why invite me back only to try to kill me? And what did my mother mean by save us? The questions piled up, each one a hook sinking deeper into my resolve. I thought of my courtroom, nicknamed the guillotine for my unflinching rulings. Tomorrow I was set to hear a case against a Harper Enterprises subsidiary accused of defrauding pension funds. Coincidence? Doubtful. Jamal had already flagged irregularities in the case file, missing documents, witnesses recanting. Now, with bullets flying and my grandfather's voice echoing, I knew this was bigger than a single lawsuit. Harper Enterprises wasn't just a Wall Street giant. It was a hydra, its heads reaching into places I couldn't yet see. I sat at my kitchen table, the USB drive in one hand, the crumpled note from my windshield in the other. 9 years ago, I'd walked away from my family, thinking I'd escaped their poison. But they'd found me again, dragging me back into their world of secrets and blood. I could stay away, ignore the invitation, let the SUV's warning win, or I could go to that wedding, walk into the lion's den, and face the family that tried to destroy me. Not for reconciliation, never that. For truth. For my grandfather. For the part of me that still burned to prove them wrong. I drained the bourbon and made my choice. I'd go to the wedding. I'd confront Victor, Liam, and whatever empire of lies they'd built. And if they wanted a fight, I'd give them one they'd never forget. The guillotine was coming home. The next morning, the Manhattan Federal Courthouse loomed like a fortress, its granite facade a stark contrast to the chaos of my night. I arrived at 6:45 a.m., my heels clicking on the marble floor, the weight of my black robe already settling over my shoulders. Jamal was waiting in my chambers, his lanky frame hunched over a laptop, coffee cups littering the desk. At 28, he looked like a grad student, but his loyalty was ironclad. "You look like hell," he said, not looking up from his screen. "Heard about the shooting?" I tossed the crumpled note onto his desk. "Black SUV, gunfire, this left behind. Someone doesn't want me at Liam's wedding." Jamal's eyes narrowed as he read the note. "Harper Enterprises." "Who else?" I said, sinking into my chair. "Then there's this." I handed him the USB drive. "My grandfather's voice says Victor's empire is tied to cartels, blood money. He died trying to stop it." Jamal plugged the drive in, his fingers flying over the keyboard. "Jesus, Evelyn, this is heavy. If Thomas Harper was right, we're not just talking insider trading. This is organized crime." "Keep it quiet," I warned. "Whoever's behind that SUV knows I have this, and they're not playing games." He nodded, already pulling up encrypted files. I dug into the Harper subsidiary case for today. Found something weird. Their financials don't add up. Billions funneled through offshore accounts in the Caymans. And guess who's on the board? Your brother, Liam. My stomach twisted. Liam, the perfect son, always one step ahead in Victor's shadow. Had he known about the ambush? Was he complicit in whatever blood my grandfather meant? "Sophia Bennett, his fiancée, is she involved?" I asked. "Not sure," Jamal said. "She's clean on paper. Georgetown law, corporate attorney, big on charity boards. But she's marrying into the Harpers, so she's either clueless or complicit." I rubbed my temples, the weight of the day pressing down. "Today's case is against their subsidiary. I need to be flawless, Jamal. No mistakes." He hesitated, then slid a folder across the desk. "That's the other thing. Someone swapped your case notes last night. The ones on your desk were fakes. Wrong dates, wrong statutes. If you'd used them in court, it'd be a mistrial." I stared at the folder, my blood running cold. An inside job. Someone in the courthouse, my sanctuary, my fortress, had betrayed me. "Who has access to my chambers?" I asked, my voice low. "Me, you, the janitorial staff, and—" He trailed off, uncomfortable. "Judge Kessler. He's been asking about your Harper cases." Kessler, a senior judge with a reputation for bending ethics, had never liked me. Too young, too female, too unwilling to play his old boys' network games. Could he be tied to Victor? The thought made my skin crawl. "Watch him," I said, "and get me everything you can on Harper Enterprises' offshore accounts. If I'm walking into that wedding, I need ammunition." Jamal grinned, a spark of his old hacker mischief in his eyes. "You were really going? After they tried to kill you?" "They didn't try hard enough," I said, standing. "Court's in an hour. Let's make sure the guillotine lives up to her name." The courtroom was a battlefield, all polished wood and hushed anticipation. I took my place on the bench, gavel in hand, my robe a shield against the eyes boring into me. The case was United States v. Harper Tech Solutions, a Harper Enterprises subsidiary, accused of defrauding pension funds to the tune of $300 million, 0 cents. The gallery was packed. Reporters, investors, and, I noticed with a jolt, a man in a gray suit who looked too much like one of Victor's security goons. Was he here to watch me? Or worse? The plaintiff's attorney, a sharp woman named Rachel Cohn, laid out a damning case. Falsified earnings, shell companies, workers left penniless. Harper Tech's counsel, a slick Harvard type named Gregory Vance, countered with charm and deflections, but I wasn't buying it. I leaned forward, my voice cutting through his rhetoric. "Mr. Vance, your client's financials show a $50 million 0 cents transfer to an unregistered Cayman account. Care to explain?" Vance faltered, his smile slipping. "I'd need to consult our records, Your Honor." "Do that," I said, my tone ice. "And while you're at it, explain why those records were altered 3 days before this hearing." A murmur rippled through the gallery. Vance's face reddened, but he recovered, promising to provide the documents. I adjourned for the day, my mind racing. The falsified notes, the offshore accounts, the ambush. They were connected. Victor was playing a game, and I was the target. As the courtroom emptied, Jamal slipped me a note. "Found emails linking Harpertech to a cartel front. Check your secure drive." I nodded, my resolve hardening. The wedding was 2 days away, and I'd need every shred of evidence to face my family. But as I stepped into the hallway, a shadow moved at the edge of my vision. The man in the gray suit, his eyes locked on me, vanished into the crowd. My hand tightened around my grandfather's pocket watch, a talisman in my pocket. Whoever was coming for me, they'd find I wasn't the scared girl who'd left 9 years ago. I was Judge Evelyn Harper, and I was ready to fight. The drive to my apartment that night was a gauntlet of paranoia. Every headlight in my rearview felt like a threat, every alley a potential ambush. I kept my grandfather's antique pistol loaded, illegal in New York, but a gift he'd insisted I keep, tucked in my glove compartment. Its weight was a reminder of his warning. They'll kill to keep their secrets. I didn't know who they were yet, but I was starting to suspect it wasn't just Victor. At home, I locked the door and opened my laptop, pulling up Jamal's secure drive. The emails were a goldmine, coded messages between Harpertech executives and a shell company called Triton Ventures, a known front for a South American cartel. One name stood out. Liam Harper, CC'd on a thread about securing the Brooklyn asset. Was I the asset? The thought made my skin crawl. My brother, the boy who'd once shared his Halloween candy with me, now a cog in a criminal machine. I poured another bourbon, the burn grounding me. The wedding loomed, a trap I couldn't avoid. My mother's note, "Save us," felt like a plea and a warning. Claire had always been the quiet one, the perfect wife to Victor's tyrant, but her words suggested something had shifted. Was she finally rebelling? Or was she luring me into a setup? And Sophia Bennett, Liam's fiancée, what was her role? A pawn? A player? Or something else entirely? I replayed my grandfather's recording, his voice a lifeline in the dark. "You're the only one who can stop him. Stop Victor, yes, but also the empire he'd built, the lives it had crushed. The pensioners in today's case, the workers whose futures Harpertech had stolen. They were why I'd become a judge, not for glory, but for justice." And now justice meant facing the family that had tried to erase me. The clock struck midnight, the storm outside relentless. I stood at my window, watching the city pulse below. New York was a beast, beautiful and brutal, just like the Harpers. I'd survived it once, and I'd survive it again. The wedding was my chance to uncover the truth, to expose the blood behind my father's empire. But as I clutched my grandfather's watch, its ticking steady against my palm, I knew one thing for certain. Someone wanted me dead, and they weren't done trying. The next morning, I woke to a text from Jamal. "Emergency, courthouse security breach last night. Your office was ransacked." My heart sank. The falsified notes, the ambush, and now this? Someone was closing in. I dressed quickly, choosing a tailored black suit, my armor for the day. The courthouse was my domain, but it was no longer safe. As I grabbed my keys, my eyes fell on the blood-red envelope, still on my counter. I tucked it into my bag, along with the USB and my grandfather's pistol. If I was walking into a war, I'd be armed with more than just my gavel. The courthouse was in chaos when I arrived. Security guards swarmed the lobby, and Jamal met me at the elevator, his face grim. "They took your case files on Harpertech," he said, "and they left this." He handed me a photograph, grainy but unmistakable. Me leaving my apartment last night, unaware of the camera. On the back, in the same jagged scrawl as the windshield note, "Last warning." I crumpled the photo, my anger flaring. "Get me the security footage," I told Jamal, "and call the FBI. This isn't just a break-in, it's a threat on a federal judge." He nodded, but his eyes held a question he didn't ask. "Are you sure you want to do this?" I didn't answer. I didn't need to. The wedding was tomorrow, and I was done running. Victor, Liam, whoever was behind this, they'd underestimated me for the last time. I was Evelyn Harper, the guillotine, and I was coming for them. The Hudson Valley estate waited, a Gothic fortress perched above the river, its spires clawing at the sky. I drove north that afternoon, the USB in my pocket, the pistol in my bag, and my grandfather's voice in my head. The rehearsal dinner was tonight, the wedding tomorrow, if it happened at all. I didn't know what I'd find when I walked through those gates, but I knew one thing. The Harpers were hiding something, and I was the only one who could drag it into the light. As I crested the hill, the estate came into view, its windows glowing like eyes in the dusk. My mother's note burned in my memory. "Save us." From what? From Victor? From themselves? Or from the blood my grandfather had warned me about? The answers were inside, along with the family that had tried to kill me, literally and figuratively. I touched my grandfather's watch, its ticking a steady pulse, and steeled myself. The guillotine was home, and this time I wasn't leaving without the truth. The Hudson Valley estate loomed ahead, its Gothic spires piercing the bruised twilight sky like a warning carved in stone. My sedan's tires crunched on the gravel drive, the sound swallowed by the vastness of the Harper estate. I'd grown up here, in this labyrinth of ivy-covered walls and secrets, but it felt alien now, a predator's lair. The iron gate stood open, flanked by security guards in black suits, their eyes hidden behind sunglasses despite the fading light. One of them waved me through, his gloved hand lingering too long in the air as if marking me. My grip tightened on the steering wheel, my grandfather's pocket watch a steady weight in my jacket pocket. Its ticking a reminder. Stay sharp, Evelyn. They'll kill to keep their secrets. I parked among a fleet of Bentleys and Maseratis, my battered car a deliberate middle finger to the Harper wealth. The rehearsal dinner was tonight, the wedding tomorrow, if it survived the storm I was about to unleash. My bag held the blood-red envelope, the USB with my grandfather's chilling recording, and his antique pistol, its cold steel a last resort. The note from last night's ambush, "Stay away from the wedding," burned in my memory, as did the courthouse break-in this morning. Someone had ransacked my office, stolen my Harper Tech case files, and left a photograph of me with a threat. Last warning. They thought they could scare me off. They were wrong. I stepped out, my forest green dress, chosen by my friend Maya for its "you're a boss" vibe, hugging my frame, heels clicking with purpose. The air smelled of rain and roses, the estate's gardens a riot of blooms under strung lights. Voices drifted from the east lawn, laughter and clinking glasses masking the tension I knew waited inside. My phone buzzed with a text from Jamal. Security cam footage from courthouse, inconclusive. FBI's on it. Found more on Triton Ventures. Cartel ties confirmed. Be careful. I typed back. At the estate, keep digging. Watch your back. Jamal was risking everything to help me, and I wouldn't let his courage go to waste. The mansion's oak doors loomed, carved with the Harper crest. A lion clutching a laurel, its eyes glinting in the torchlight. I pushed them open, stepping into the grand foyer. Marble floors gleamed under a chandelier the size of a small car, its crystals casting fractured light across portraits of Harper ancestors. My father, Victor, stared down from the largest canvas, his cold blue eyes a mirror of my own. I forced myself to look away, my pulse quickening. 9 years since I'd been here. 9 years since he'd disowned me at that gala, his voice a blade. "You're no daughter of mine." "Evelyn?" My mother's voice, fragile but warm, cut through the memory. Claire Harper emerged from a side hall, her silver hair swept into an elegant chignon, her navy dress clinging to a frame thinner than I remembered. Her eyes, red-rimmed, widened with something like relief. "You came." "I said I would," I replied, letting her pull me into a hesitant embrace. Her perfume, lilac, always lilac, stirred memories of childhood, of her tucking me in before she vanished into Victor's orbit. She stepped back, glancing nervously toward the lawn where the rehearsal was underway. "Does Victor know I'm here?" I asked, my voice low. She shook her head, fingers twisting a pearl bracelet. "Not yet. Neither does Liam. I didn't tell them I invited you." "Good," I said, a little too sharply. Her "No, come back, save us," flashed in my mind. "What did you mean, save us? Save you from what, Mum?" Her lips parted, but before she could answer, a voice interrupted. "Evelyn Harper! My God, is that you?" My cousin Abigail, all designer heels and champagne flute, approached, her Botox-smooth face a mask of shock. "Aunt Claire said you weren't coming." "Plans change," I said, my smile tight. Abigail's eyes darted to my dress, my lack of a diamond-crusted clutch, calculating my worth in a glance. She'd always been Victor's favorite niece, a mini heiress who'd never questioned the family's wealth. "Well, this is unexpected," she stammered, adjusting her handbag. "Does Liam know, or Uncle Victor?" "Not yet," I said, relishing her discomfort. "Let's keep it that way for now." More relatives noticed me as we moved toward the lawn. Aunt Susan nearly dropped her drink, her gasp audible. Uncle Thomas did a double-take, his cigar pausing mid-puff. Victor's colleagues, in tailored suits, whispered behind manicured hands. I kept my chin high, nodding politely, my judicial poise a shield against their stares. The USB in my bag felt like a live grenade, my grandfather's words echoing, "Victor's empire is built on blood." The east lawn was a spectacle, white tents glowing under strings of Edison bulbs, a string quartet playing Vivaldi. Waiters in black tie wove through the crowd, offering caviar and Prosecco. I scanned the faces, old money, new money, all here to celebrate Liam's union with Sophia Bennett. And there he was, my brother, directing a florist near a rose-covered arch, his gestures sharp, entitled. Liam Harper, 36, golden hair swept back, his navy suit screaming bespoke. He hadn't changed, still the prince of Victor's empire, the son who'd never had to fight for approval. But it was Sophia I saw first. She stood apart, checking her phone, her white sundress a stark contrast to the ostentatious gowns around her. Blonde hair fell in loose waves, her posture relaxed yet confident. She looked up, and her face lit with recognition. "Judge Harper?" she called, hurrying toward me, her voice carrying across the lawn. The quartet faltered, conversations hushed, heads turned. Sophia stopped before me, offering a slight curtsy, a courtroom habit that charmed me despite myself. "Your antitrust rulings are legendary. I didn't know you'd be here." The air thickened, every eye on us. Liam froze, his gaze snapping to me, confusion morphing into shock, then horror. Our eyes locked over Sophia's shoulder, 9 years of silence crackling between us. "Not exactly a family friend," I said quietly, my voice steady despite the pounding in my chest. "I am Liam's sister." Sophia's mouth fell open. "Sister?" She turned to Liam, who was striding toward us, his face pale. "You said your sister struggled, left the family. You never mentioned Judge Harper." Liam reached us, his jaw tight. "Evelyn," he said, the word flat, a stranger's greeting. "This is unexpected." "Is it?" I countered, my tone cool. "I RSVP'd." Sophia's brow furrowed, her lawyer's mind catching the tension. "You two know each other. How?" "She's my daughter," Claire interjected, stepping beside me, her voice firm despite her trembling hands. "Liam's older sister." "Sister?" Sophia repeated, her voice rising. "Liam, you told me she had a breakdown, couldn't handle the family business, disappeared. You never said she was Judge Evelyn Harper, the one whose rulings are in every law school textbook." The silence was deafening, the crowd a frozen tableau. Liam's attempt at a laugh came out strangled. Evelyn always had unconventional ideas about success. Unconventional? Sophia's eyes narrowed, her tone sharpening. Her ruling in Bennett v. Consolidated redefined corporate accountability. She's being considered for the Federal Circuit, maybe even the Supreme Court. And you called her a failure? Liam shifted, his charm crumbling. "I didn't think it was relevant." "Not relevant?" Sophia's voice cut like a blade. "I've cited her opinions in my briefs, argued in her courtroom. I studied her in law school, Liam. And you never thought to mention she's your sister?" The guests were openly staring now, their whispers a low hum. Uncle Thomas let out a low whistle, his cigar forgotten. Victor chose that moment to emerge from the mansion, his presence like a storm cloud. He stopped short, his eyes finding me, and for a moment I was 25 again, trembling under his rage. Then I remembered my robe, my gavel, the lives I'd changed. I straightened, meeting his gaze. "Dad," Liam called, a hint of desperation in his voice. "Did you know she was coming?" Victor approached, slower than I remembered, his hair grayer, his suit still impeccable. "Your mother mentioned the possibility," he said, his voice measured, clinical. His eyes raked over me, assessing. "You look well, Evelyn." "Thank you," I replied, neither warm nor cold. "I am well." Sophia was still staring at Liam, her expression hardening. "You lied to me, Liam, about your own sister. What else are you hiding?" "I didn't lie," Liam snapped, then softened, his charm kicking in. "I just simplified things." Evelyn walked away from the family, from our legacy. "Legacy," I interrupted, my voice calm but lethal. "You mean the legacy of insider trading, of defrauding pensioners? Or is it the cartel money I'm supposed to ignore?" The crowd gasped, the word cartel a bomb in their polished world. Victor's face didn't change, but his eyes flickered, a predator sizing up prey. Liam's mouth opened, then closed, his composure gone. Sophia took a step back, her hand on her engagement ring, twisting it like a lifeline. "Enough," Victor said, his voice low, commanding. "This is a family matter. We'll discuss it privately." "Well?" I challenged, stepping forward. "Liam didn't need privacy when he told the world I was a failure, when he stood by while you called me a traitor. If you want to air dirty laundry, let's do it here." Victor's jaw tightened, but before he could respond, a waiter approached, offering me a glass of red wine. "For you, ma'am," he said, his eyes darting away too quickly. I took the glass, the liquid dark and heavy, and caught a faint, bitter scent. Chemical. Wrong. My years on the bench had taught me to trust my instincts. I pretended to sip, letting the wine touch my lips, then set it down, my heart racing. "Poisoned? Another warning?" "Evelyn, please," Claire whispered, touching my arm. "Not like this." I ignored her, my eyes on the waiter, who was already slipping through the crowd. I nodded to Jamal, who'd arrived discreetly, blending in with the catering staff. He followed the waiter, his phone out, recording. If that wine was tampered with, I'd have proof. Sophia broke the silence, her voice trembling but firm. "Liam, I need to think. This changes everything." She removed her engagement ring, placing it in his palm. "I can't do this right now." She walked away, her sundress a white blur against the darkening lawn. Liam stared at the ring, his face a mix of anger and disbelief. "Happy now," he hissed at me. "You've ruined everything before it even started." "You did that yourself," I said quietly. "Lies have a way of catching up." He stormed off toward the mansion, the crowd parting like the Red Sea. Victor watched me, his expression unreadable, then turned to follow Liam. Claire squeezed my arm, her eyes pleading. "I didn't want this," she whispered. "But you need to know. Victor's enemies are circling. They see you as a threat. That's why I asked you to come." "Enemies?" I pressed, my voice low. "Who, Mom? And why me?" She glanced around, fear in her eyes. "Not here. Meet me in the library at midnight. I'll explain everything." She slipped away, leaving me alone in the center of the lawn, the guests' whispers a chorus of judgment. I felt the weight of the USB in my bag, my grandfather's warning louder now. They'll kill to keep their secrets. The poisoned wine, if it was poisoned, was proof. Someone wanted me gone, and they weren't subtle about it. I found a quiet corner near a reflecting pool, my grandfather's favorite spot, and sat on a stone bench, the USB in my hand. The quartet resumed, their music a hollow attempt at normalcy. Jamal texted, "Waiter's gone, found a vial in his pocket, sending to a lab. Stay alert." I typed back, "Meet me at the library, 11:55. Mom's got answers." The night deepened, the air heavy with the promise of rain. I thought of the courthouse, my sanctuary, now violated by whoever stole my files, the photograph they'd left me unaware, a target. The ambush, the wine, the lies, it was all connected, a web with Victor at its center. Or was he? My mother's fear, Sophia's shock, Liam's desperation. They didn't add up to a simple family feud. There was something bigger. Something my grandfather had died for. A shadow moved at the edge of the lawn, too deliberate to be a guest. I stood, my hand slipping into my bag, fingers brushing the pistol's grip. The figure vanished into the hedges, but my pulse didn't slow. I was being watched, hunted. The library at midnight couldn't come soon enough. The hours crawled by, the rehearsal dinner a blur of forced smiles and veiled barbs. I stayed on the fringes, avoiding Victor's colleagues, who eyed me like a curiosity, and my relatives, who alternated between pity and disdain. Aunt Susan cornered me at one point, her champagne breath hot on my face. "So, you're a judge now? How?" Quaint. Victor must be so disappointed. "You survive," I said, extricating myself. Her laugh followed me, sharp and hollow. Liam reappeared for dessert, his face a mask of control, but his eyes betrayed him. Fury, fear, something darker. He avoided me, sticking close to his groomsmen, all Wall Street clones with Rolexes and smug grins. Sophia was nowhere to be seen, her absence a gaping wound in the evening's facade. I wondered what she was thinking, whether she'd meant it when she gave back the ring. She'd seemed genuine, her admiration for my work unfeigned, but in this family, trust was a luxury I couldn't afford. At 11:45, I slipped away from the lawn, the mansion's halls eerily quiet. The library was on the second floor, a sanctuary of leather-bound books and my grandfather's old desk. I moved silently, my heels muffled on the Persian rugs, the pistol now in my jacket pocket. The air felt thick, charged, as if the house itself was holding its breath. I reached the library door, its oak surface carved with the Harper lion. A faint light glowed beneath, and I heard voices. Claire's, low and urgent, and another, male, unfamiliar. I pressed my ear to the door, catching fragments. "She can't know. Too dangerous. Victor's orders." My blood ran cold. Was Claire betraying me? Or was she trapped, like she'd claimed? I checked my phone. 11:53, as Jamal would be here soon. I pushed the door open, the hinges silent, and stepped inside. Claire stood by the fireplace, her face pale, a glass of sherry trembling in her hand. Across from her was a man I didn't recognize, late 50s, gray suit, eyes like a snake's. He turned, unsurprised as if he'd expected me. "Evelyn," he said, his voice smooth, accented. "South American, maybe. You're early. Who are you? I demanded, my hand hovering near my pocket. Claire gasped, dropping her glass. It shattered on the hearth, sherry pooling like blood. Evelyn, you shouldn't be here yet. Answer me, I said, my voice cutting through her panic. Who is he, and what's too dangerous for me to know? The man smiled, a predator's grin. I'm a friend of your father's. Call me Gabriel. As for what's dangerous, you're holding it in your bag. That USB is a death sentence. My heart stopped. He knew about the USB. How? I took a step back, my hand closing around the pistol. Stay where you are, I warned. What do you know about my grandfather's recording? Gabriel's smile widened. Everything. Thomas was a fool, thinking he could expose us. You're smarter, Evelyn. Walk away. Burn the USB. Live. Us? I pressed, my mind racing. Who's us? The cartel? Triton Ventures? His eyes flickered, a crack in his composure. You've been busy, but you're out of your depth. Victor's empire is bigger than you can imagine. Claire sobbed, sinking into a chair. Evelyn, I didn't want this. I sent the invitation to protect you, to warn you. Warn me? I snapped, my anger flaring. You lured me here, Mom, into a trap. Who's giving Victor's orders? Him? I nodded at Gabriel. No, she whispered, her voice breaking. It's not that simple. Victor's sick, Evelyn, cancer. He's desperate to protect the family, even if it means... Enough, Gabriel cut in, his voice sharp. He reached into his jacket, and I didn't hesitate. I drew the pistol, leveling it at his chest. Don't, I said, my voice steady, the guillotine in full control. One move, and you're done. Gabriel froze, his hand halfway to his pocket. For a moment, the only sound was Claire's ragged breathing and the distant hum of the quartet outside. Then the door burst open, and Jamal rushed in, a flash drive in one hand, his phone in the other. Evelyn, I've got the lab results. The wine was laced with ricin, and I found... He stopped, seeing the gun. Gabriel, Claire's tears. Jamal, stay back, I ordered, my eyes on Gabriel. What did you find? He swallowed, holding up the flash drive. Emails. Triton Ventures isn't just a cartel front. It's tied to a network. Politicians, judges, even someone in your courthouse. They're protecting Harper Enterprises. And they know you're onto them. Gabriel laughed. A low, chilling sound. You're both dead already. You just don't know it. Shut up, I snapped, my finger tightening on the trigger. Mom, start talking. Now. What's Victor protecting? Who's trying to kill me? Claire's eyes darted between me and Gabriel, her face a mask of fear. It's not just Victor. There's a group, powerful people. They've been with the family for decades. Your grandfather found out. Tried to stop them, they killed him, Evelyn. And now they want you gone because you're too much like him. My stomach lurched. My grandfather, murdered. The heart attack, the suddenness. It had never sat right. And now here was proof, in my mother's trembling voice, in Gabriel's smug silence. The USB wasn't just a warning. It was a map to a conspiracy that had already claimed one Harper and was gunning for another. Names? I demanded. Who are they? Before Claire could answer, a loud crack echoed outside, followed by screams. The lights flickered, then died, plunging the library into darkness. Glass shattered somewhere in the mansion, and footsteps, heavy, deliberate, thudded closer. Gabriel moved, faster than I expected, diving for the floor. I fired, the shot deafening in the confined space, but he was already gone, a shadow slipping through a side door. Evelyn, Jamal shouted, grabbing my arm. We need to move. Claire was sobbing, curled in her chair. I hauled her up, my gun still raised. Mom, come on, we're not safe here. The footsteps were in the hall now, multiple sets, closing in. The screams outside grew louder, The quartet silent. Something was happening. Another attack, a diversion, or worse. My mind raced, piecing it together. The ambush, the poisoned wine, the courthouse break-in, now this. They weren't just trying to scare me. They wanted me dead, tonight, before I could expose them. We stumbled into the hall, the mansion a maze of shadows. A figure loomed at the far end, silhouetted against a broken window, a gun glinting in their hand. I pushed Claire behind me, raising my pistol, my heart a war drum. "Stay back," I shouted, my voice echoing. The figure didn't move, but a voice, low, familiar, cut through the dark. "Evelyn, it's me, Liam." My brother stepped into a sliver of moonlight, his face pale, his suit rumpled. His gun was lowered, but his eyes were wild, a mix of fear and something I couldn't read. "What the hell are you doing?" he demanded. "You're tearing everything apart." "Me?" I snapped, my gun still trained on him. "Someone just tried to kill me, Liam. Poisoned wine, armed men, a conspiracy your fiancé didn't even know about. What are you hiding?" He flinched, his gun hand trembling. "I didn't know about the wine, I swear. But you need to leave, Evelyn. You don't understand what you're up against." "Then tell me," I said, stepping closer, my voice low, lethal. "Who's Gabriel? Who's trying to kill me? And what did you do to grandfather?" His eyes widened, the name Gabriel hitting like a punch. Before he could answer, a second crack split the air. Gunfire, close, from the lawn. Claire screamed, and Jamal yanked us toward a staircase. "Go!" he shouted. "They're coming!" We ran, Liam hesitating before following, his gun still in hand. The mansion was a war zone now. Glass shattering, voices shouting, the acrid smell of smoke in the air. My mind spun. Gabriel, the cartel, Victor's enemies, my grandfather's murder. And Liam, my brother, caught in the middle, his loyalty a question mark. Was he a victim, a villain, or both? We reached the second-floor landing, the library's secret still burning in my mind. Claire's confession, Gabriel's threat, Jamal's evidence. It was all connected, a puzzle I had to solve before it buried me. The USB in my bag felt heavier, a ticking bomb. My grandfather had died for it, and now I was in the crosshairs. As we ducked into a shadowed alcove, the footsteps closed in, relentless. Liam's gun was raised now, his eyes darting between me and the hall. "Evelyn," he whispered, his voice raw. "I didn't want this, but you're not the only one they're after." "Oh," I demanded, my gun steady. "Tell me, Liam, or I swear—" The explosion rocked the mansion, the floor trembling beneath us. Firelight flared through the windows, the lawn a chaos of flames and screams. The rehearsal dinner was a trap, and we were all caught in it. My grandfather's voice echoed, louder than ever. "You're the only one who can stop them." I grabbed Claire's hand, nodded to Jamal, and glared at Liam. "You're with me, or you're against me," I said. "Choose, now." His eyes met mine, a storm of guilt and fear. Then he nodded, his gun lowering. "With you," he said, the words barely audible over the chaos. I didn't trust him, not yet, but I had no choice. The guillotine was in too deep, and the night was far from over.